A new data leak at Meta for Meta's Integrity Lab has revealed how countries like Israel use content moderation to ban posts that go against their agenda. And it's not just Israel doing this, but that's the focus of this expose at the International Corruption Watch, which is a group of anonymous researchers who received the data leak from whistleblowers at Meta. And they talk about this mass censorship strategy, which I'll bring up on screen here. So this is a chart explaining how this content moderation abuse, this takedown request abuse, has been going on at Facebook, and I'll explain it in a second. First, you need to learn how Facebook takes down content. Normally, anyone can click on a few dots next to the post and report a post for a number of different reasons. And normally when you do this, you're not, you're according to Facebook, you're not that important. So it automatically gets judged by an AI model, the content enforcement model, which will say, all right, this offended the terms or it didn't offend the terms. And if it's not confident, it'll send it to a human reviewer. However, if you're a government like the state of Israel, or really any other country for that matter, you get special access to submit takedown requests, which are given priority. They also don't go to AI, they go to human reviewers. And once this piece of content, if it aligns and it is approved by a human, that human will give it a label, calling it offending content, and adding it to the training data set that the content enforcement model, which works on Facebook as a whole, is trained on. So you can see quickly how this can be abused. You're seeing the human reviewer is, if they receive a number of reports and mark them all as violating, then the content model will be entraced on that. So if large amounts are approved as offensive, then it'll have a chilling effect on the rest of the network. In machine learning, this is called a data poisoning attack, which is essentially taking control of a machine learning training data set and influencing it with highly opinionated data. In this case, that anything having to do with Palestine or conflicts in the surrounding regions or Israel's actions are automatically reported for terroristic content, when we all know there's so much to say on both sides of those stories. But that's exactly what happened using this outlier injection, which in this way Israel was able to mass report posts during that time. Let's look at a graph to see how much they actually mass reported. So on the left, you'll see before October 7th, you see that clear distinction in the data before and after October 7th. Before October 7th, you could see maybe about 100,000 reports a day. And then they went from anywhere from 150,000 to 400,000 reports a day after October 7th. Now, to understand these reports, you have to know that it's associated with the country submitting the request. It's also associated in a country where the post originated. So for instance, if you're the US, you can report posts that are actually occurring in Mexico saying they go against the terms of service or they're harmful content. Now, this is going to get interesting because you can see that this graph is colored, and the green, the bright green color on the left is Palestine. However, that color quickly shifts. Let's zoom in a little bit and we can see how the activity picked up after October 7th. And it's more focused on the surrounding region. Look at all that blue, and you see Egypt. They are reporting a lot of posts coming out of Egypt. And this is just a trend. They're focusing on their neighbors. If you can look at, let's see here, this chart, it's talking about the other main countries, the top reporters of posts to Facebook. You see Israel really stands out from the rest. The column in this table corresponds to the other neighboring countries the other countries are reporting the posts from. So for instance, Israel is reporting Egypt, Jordan, Palestine, Algeria, and Yemen. Now notice all the other countries. Pakistan, their top country is Pakistan. Malaysia, Brazil, India. Most countries are moderating their own populace. No, not in Israel's case, if we were to believe this data. They're actually trying to maintain order in the surrounding countries. So if you go back to this graph, that makes sense. They're they're reporting a lot of different content in the neighboring countries. The reason for that, I mean, there's many reasons I could guess, but it's that they didn't want evidence of any crimes either way getting out to neighboring countries. You could say that, oh, it's a national security risk. You could also make sure to downplay that information so there isn't a mass uprising in the area. This report also goes on to talk about an example takedown request from the perspective of Israel. And essentially it's this email that gets sent to Meta, which apparently this report has access to. And it's the same information every time, which reviews the official Israeli account of what happened on October 7th and citation of Israeli counterterrorism law. So imagine this newspeak-like response to a really one-sided response to anything that's happening on Palestine, along with the links of the posts that they were reporting. And imagine an email like that being sent like hundreds of times per day, reporting thousands of posts. Well, that's what was happening according to this report. There was no addressing the context in the videos. There was no addressing the content. It was literally the same copy and paste reply over and over. The report goes on to say that there is a 94% compliance rate with Israeli requests, making it the top 75% of countries that they just request get approved, with an average review time of about 30 seconds for each report, which can contain multiple posts. Now, am I to believe that the people at Meta were really giving this a lot of thought and the reports a lot of thought, or does it seem like that they're just passing it through because there's a lot of pressure on sending them through? The report estimates that about 38 million posts have been actioned on due to the content enforcement model being data poisoned. So all these mass reports come in, human reviewers are pressured or are just selecting yes, right? That 94% approval rating. And then the content AI is fed with that. So it's no doubt, there's no doubt, there's no surprise why anyone trying to cover Palestine or the issues happening in Middle East at this time, the genocide, got censored automatically by AI. It's being trained and abused by other governments around the world, like Israel's. And it's Israel. They have the most takedown requests per capita, but there are also other governments who send large amounts of reports, including Pakistan, Malaysia, Brazil, Bangladesh, India, Indonesia, and the UAE. Again, though, they focus on their own populace. Now, Human Rights Watch has published an earlier analysis showing that Israel was using these exact same types of mass reports to censor critics, but they used categories like spam. Now they're using categories like terrorism. And Meta even apologized for the abuse of their system. But this seems to be more of the same. It seems like a sad irony that actions such as bombing civilians and attacking countries outside of a current conflict can be reported by the perpetrators and whitewashed from the view of the world. Really sad, and this is why I don't carry social media. Absolutely terrible. We really need to look for alternative social networks for people who actually want real news reflecting what society thinks. I know that's a hard thing to say these days, but the future is decentralized. These social media networks will be decentralized, and I look forward to researching and covering more of the networks I see working on the show.